Hey, 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 cycle breakers and barrier breakers alike. Welcome to the Fuck That Bullshit podcast, where we advocate, educate, motivate, and create a safe space for you to embrace the mental wealth of marginalized and disenfranchised communities. We are serving no bullshit knowledge, tools, strategies, and insights. And yes, we will be entertaining. Our goal each episode is for you to leave feeling empowered, ready to take action and make meaningful choices that pave the way to your abundant mental wealth. So enjoy, like, subscribe, share, and discuss. Make sure you save it too, just in case you want to look back at it and get some more tips and things. The PTBS podcast is for education, empowerment, and inspiration. It is not a substitute for therapy or professional mental health care. If you're in need of additional support, please reach out to a licensed mental health provider. Warning: the Fuck That Bullshit podcast is intended for mature audiences only. This podcast contains raw, unfiltered conversations about mental health, social issues, and breaking generational cycles. We keep it real, unapologetic, and explicit because healing and empowerment require honesty. We're going to have strong language and adult themes, unfiltered discussions on race, identity, and mental wealth, challenging bullshit narratives without censorship. So if you're easily offended, this might not be for you, and it's definitely not for kids. But if you're ready for bold, barrier-breaking conversations that empower, educate, and entertain, tap in and let's fuck that bullshit together. Let's go. Hey, 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 our beautiful audience. Welcome to Fuck That Bullshit podcast here on this wonderful Sunday evening. It's 7 p.m. How y'all fellas doing?
We doing all right.
We're doing all right.
We doing all right. So we're gonna jump right into it. We're gonna jump right into it.
Home address, person.
Nah, go ahead. That was background shit. Background shit.
Today we decided to challenge Christianity. Fuck that save, but still shackle bullshit and breaking free from the colonizer's Christ. No colonizer's Christ. This is look. Okay, I'm gonna let Brian give y'all a disclaimer.
Right. Now here's our ladies and wonderful gentlemen, wonderful ladies. We are not atheists. We're not trying to play you, punk you, or piss you off. It's just a conversation. So we encourage you to engage in the conversation. We're not attacking you. Please do not attack us. I got a saying, I just can't say it no more. But so it's not about being disrespectful, and it's not about trying to change your mind. It's just about putting a few thoughts in your head.
Right. We just want people to keep their minds open and think critically, right?
Right.
And all that. It's all about critical thinking and not letting people tell you what to think, because we're not here to tell you what to think either, right?
No,
we just
not at all.
Right.
To some more information and opportunities to explore. That is what we all about right here. So I'm gonna ask this question to start. When did you first start questioning the Christian belief system?
Ooh, good question. For me, I saw I don't know if it was a documentary or whatever it was, but it was T.D. Jakes. Okay. And he was in his garage and he had this, it looked like a car dealership lot, just this row of cars. And he was bragging on those cars. He was very proud of all his accomplishments. Then they showed his house. And then I was like, wait a minute. Aren't you supposed to be living in a manger or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Shouldn't there be some humility here? You know what I mean? And I think that's when I first started saying, wait, this is a, you know, this is a money thing. You know what I mean? It feels like a money thing. And you know, the whole give me your money right now out of your pocket, and then you pray on that recoup, you know?
Right. Okay. What about you,
See,
Fred?
for me, actually, mine started right after high school when I talked to this lady in New Orleans that went to Greater St. Stephen's. And when I told her where I went to church at, she went, mm. And I was like, what's wrong with my church? Right? You know? And then when my used to be TV pastor, Creflo Dollar, wanted that jet, Jesus told him he needed a jet. I'm like, what you need a jet for? You preaching to the people in Atlanta. Because I was living in Georgia when he asked for that jet. And then I was kind of like, Brian, you know, him. And then I started noticing him, TD Jakes. I can't think of the white guy, the big pastor up in Houston.
Mike Mealy.
Yeah.
The Michael Mealy. Yep.
I actually I never went in his church. His church looked like a university campus. And I'm thinking before Katrina, I started going to my mother-in-law's church, it just looked like a 3-bedroom house in New Orleans with some grass on the side.
That converted shotgun house, yeah.
Yeah. And he did home visits, you know, like they said the pastor did. So I started looking at this difference, like everybody that was sick at church, he went to go see him. If you needed something, if you came to him and was like, you know, hey, pastor, I don't want to bother you with this, but I'm having trouble with my light bill. For your light bill.
Right. See, that's serving the people.
And I think the breaking point for me was when I was going to Franklin Avenue Baptist Church, and I couldn't talk to Fred, and I couldn't talk to Fred Luter. I had to talk to his assistant. I didn't want to talk to his assistant. I wanted to talk to my pastor.
So it sounds like for you, it was the lack of access to the lead, and for both of y'all, the money thing, right?
Yeah.
Which are big factors. For me, my first inclination was, I don't know what I was going through. I was going through something though. But I was still a teenager, 16, 17, or something like that. And I went to our home church, William Workers.
That William Workers, baby.
William Workers,
right down Washington Avenue. Across the street from the Magnolia Project.
Right. And I remember going in there, and like I was seeking something. I was like, I needed some comfort. I needed something, right? And I sat in the back of the church, and I just wasn't feeling better while I was sitting there, right? I wasn't getting anything that I needed. And I subconsciously started counting how many times he said sinner. And I was just like, he just said sinner about 11 million times.
Right.
And where's the love of God, right? I came here for the love of God. I need to be comforted right now. And you keep telling me how horrible I am, right? And so I was like, that don't feel right. That don't sit right with me. That's not a loving God that just keep pointing out your flaws, right? And so I left church that day, never to really return unless somebody died.
Yeah, I'll be here for the funeral.
I need to explore something else. I need to figure something else out, because this doesn't feel like what I needed to feel like, right? And so I started questioning then. Now, over time, I was in and out of different churches and all that stuff, still, you know, doing the thing. I did figure out that I needed to be in a church that served the people, right? Because for me, like, being a Christian, being Christ-like meant taking care of the people. And so I needed to belong to a church who was taking care of the people. And so when I didn't find that, I was like, well, we're not going to do that. And I had the same thing that y'all had, like, you asking me for stuff, but you're not helping nobody.
Exactly.
You're not helping
even when I'm suffering, you're not helping nobody. you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that became an issue for me as well. And if we look at Christianity historically, and again, people, I don't have all the answers and I don't know all the questions. Okay. Like,
there you go.
I'll tell you what I've learned up until now, by all the sources that's available and all that. And of course, we all continue to do digging and we all continue to explore and all that. But Christianity has a heavy role in colonization, slavery, and genocide. Everybody killing in the name of Jesus.
Boy, they was murdering in the name of the Lord.
In the name of the Lord.
Murdering and enslaving.
And we joke around a lot about the fact that, like, everybody killing in the name of Jesus. However, the Bible say don't kill. And so again, that's a contradiction. Like, what's the conditions for that, right? What's the what is it, right? So I wrote down some ways that Christianity has perpetuated oppression. 1, justifying slavery through scripture. Obey your masters. That's in Ephesians 6 and 5. Yep. Erase indigenous and African spiritual systems, branded them as demonic or pagan. Silence critical thought and questioning. Don't question God. That was one of my heavy ones right there.
Yeah, that's one of my big ones.
And don't question God equals also don't question the church. Don't question your pastor. Don't question the elders, right? Yeah. Anybody that's standing in authority, as a speaker on God's behalf, you can't question them either. For promoted gender oppression, women are told to submit, be silent, and accept abuse as God's order. Condemned LGBTQIA plus identities, weaponizing the Bible to justify exclusion and violence. Taught suffering equals holiness, glorifying pain, endurance, and trauma as God's will.
That long suffering.
Long suffering.
That long suffering.
Using fear of hell to control behavior. That one right there. We're going to wrap back around to that one. Obedience out of fear, not love or truth. And that's where I was sitting at, right? Yep, I'll just close it. I knew somebody would bring it up.
Oh, Lord.
No, close the doors.
Close the doors. And then we got financial manipulation through tithes and offering. Give your last dime and trust God while leadership lives in abundance. There you go, Brian.
Yeah.
Upholding white supremacy in colonial structures. Eurocentral Jesus.
Yep.
Whitewashed imagery. Church silence on racism because they do not talk about it.
Right.
Discouraged ancestral connection, taught us to reject our roots and fear our lineage. Promoting respectability politics, teaching assimilation over liberation. And spiritualized oppression, God testing you. So stay quiet, endure abuse, and don't fight back.
Yeah.
That's why we questioning it.
Yep. And
that is exactly.
Ergo, we got questions.
And ergo, we got questions.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if anybody knows, we should by now, but there was actually a slave Bible that did not contain all the great things that's in the regular Bible. And I got a clip for that. You want to hit? Here you go.
Check it out.
As soon as I find the right one. Where we at? Wait, Rochelle said I'm watching with my mama as she's washing her white habit from first Sunday.
got a girdle ready.
People.
Gotta get a girdle out.
Did I put it on here? Oh yeah, here it is.
Washington's Museum of the Bible, a single volume that is like no other. The so-called Slave Bible, remarkable not for what's in it, but for what's not.
So about 90% of the Old Testament's been removed and about 50% of the New Testament's been removed. To put it another way, a normal King James Version has 1,189 chapters in it. The Slave Bible has only 232.
Missing are chapters and verses that might have encouraged uprisings. Book of Exodus redacted. No story of Moses demanding Pharaoh, let my people go. Gone is Galatians, and the verse, "There is neither bond nor free, for ye are all one in Christ Jesus." And no Jeremiah, "Woe unto him that useth his neighbor's service without wages."
What they've left in are verses such as Ephesians 6:5, which is the famous verse, "Slaves, be obedient to your master."
Looking at this Bible, it's hard to tell that anything's been taken out of it.
That's correct. I mean, it looks like a normal book. For many enslaved Africans, this would have been the first time they were exposed to the Bible.
A Bible selectively edited to instill obedience, using religion to underpin the horror of slavery. When people encounter this exhibit, what lasting impression do you want them to leave with?
But we want to pass the message on that may this never happen again. The Bible itself is a whole book. It's not one that you get to carve up and use this piece or that piece.
The slave Bible designed to repress rebellion, but it didn't work. Enslaved people in the Caribbean constantly fought against slavery until emancipation.
I think it's very relevant to understand our history, not just American history, but our African American history, our roots and how we got to this point.
A dark chapter in the history of the good book. Jeff Bennett, NBC News, Washington.
No shockers there.
Yeah,
Right.
And I mean, they still using the misinformation narrative, you know what I'm saying, to screw us up. So, and a lot of times we fall for it. We fall for it because we constantly looking for something. And you know, like on a show way back, the whole hope piece.
I was just about to bring that up.
Yeah,
it's the
whole
idea of hope
piece, you know.
And they use that hope to manipulate us. Again, like we said in the other episode, hope is necessary. It's absolutely necessary. That gives you something to work toward and hope for, and gives you some, you know.
Right. It makes the bad times a little less bad.
A little less right and all that. But when that hope is being used as a manipulation tool, right? When your hope for heaven allows you to deal with suffering in this lifetime with the hope that I'm going to go to heaven later. However, the criteria to get there also makes you miserable, right? You know, because you can't mess up. And the only way to get there is through Christ Jesus, right? You have to accept Christ Jesus as your Lord and Savior to get there, right? And what happens to the people who don't get exposed to Christ Jesus then? What happens if you was born into a country where Muslim, you know, is the primary religion, you know? So like there are lots of different religions and spiritual sects per se and stuff like that, but which one is right, which one is wrong, right? So that's a matter of questioning the stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, if you look at all the religions, Muslim, Hinduism, they all talk about the same goal.
Same thing.
They just have different names for them. But in Western society, they decided that if his name ain't God, you're going to hell.
Right. Right.
You know,
and that's something else that I discovered over time, Fred, was that when I started exploring different religions, you know, and I was talking to people who were Buddhist, and I was talking to people who were Muslim, and, you know, and I was like, okay, here's the main premise. Love yourself, love and take care of others, love God. You know, so there was these certain general principles around each and every one. Yeah. They just had a different name for their God. They had different rules. They had different doctrines. You know, they had different dress codes. You know, they had different things within that thing, but the underlying premise was the same, right? And doing more research, I found out that there are so many other, and I guess I can call them religions, like a better word. But there are other religions that are not, you know, popular now and all that, where they were the same type of deities. They were someone born of a virgin, right? They were all the same alignments as you know, the Bible has, you know, that Christianity has. And so we're like, is this borrowed? Is it just across, you know, is it cross cultural lines? Is it across, you know, country lines? But it's all the same. But Christianity elevates itself above all the other stuff, even though it has a lot of the same stuff, right?
That's the American way, though. You know? The American way.
But if you look at it and compare Western religion, Christianity, really, I don't know if y'all ever looked into it, but look at like Greek mythology.
Okay.
The Greeks had all these, I was like crazy
gods, right?
into that. Zeus was the equivalent of God.
Right.
Then you had all these other gods, Ares, the god of war, you know, and things like that. And you had to worship them. If you didn't worship them, you got punished.
Right.
If you don't worship God,
you get punished.
Yeah.
It's the same concept, right?
But and like, okay, I saw something last week, and it made me really think. According to the Bible, Jesus died for all our sins so we can all go to heaven, because basically man had sinned so much that God was just going to wipe us off the face of the earth. So he died. That made all of us eligible to go to heaven.
Right.
All this.
However,
if I go to church today, the pastor's going to tell me I can't go to heaven unless I do this, this, and this. So then what? Jesus died for nothing?
And that's where I was stuck too. I was very, very stuck in the, okay, so he throw all my sins in the sea of forgetfulness. However, I can still go to hell for my sins. Which one is it? Pick one.
Right.
right. Either I'm forgiven or I'm not forgiven. Right. I need to behave this way, and don't cuss, and don't think about sex, and don't you dare masturbate. You're going to grow hair on your hands. And, you know, like all these rules that confine, right? That's not freedom. That's not freedom. And there's supposed to be free will, though. We're supposed to have free will. We're supposed to be, you know, able to make our own decisions and all that. However, the decisions I make can send me to hell, basically. You know?
Right.
So
really, you can't make your own decisions.
Yeah, we did.
You can't make your own decisions. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No. That's the illusion of choice. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's coercion.
And you can't make no money off that.
You sure can.
You can't. Right. Unless because the whole thing is it's like any disease. The cure costs. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You got to pay for the cure.
Right.
So if I can get you scared enough about everything, you know, like God, would a man rob God? No, but how has he robbed me in tithes and offerings?
And offering, yeah.
And you're giving them money up.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good one, Rochelle.
And it is an abusive part. It's absolutely right. Like, think about that. Matter of fact, I got one for y'all for that one.
Listen, as a former Christian and a pastor's daughter turned spiritual consultant and religious deconstruction advocate, I am not here to challenge the beliefs of anybody. I'm simply here to tell y'all why the shit never made sense to me. I could never understand how we spent so much time in church Sunday after Sunday, Wednesday after Wednesday, service after service, dissecting and condemning our egos while completely ignoring God's. Hear me out. God is supposed to be a perfect being. What would be the point in a perfect being creating imperfection? Because a perfect being is not going to create imperfection on accident. Otherwise, they are not perfect, meaning they had to create as a perfect being imperfection on purpose. And some of the scholars I've had this conversation with have said maybe God wanted to study imperfection. The fuck would God need to study imperfection for if he's perfect and all-knowing? If you were all-knowing, you would know what imperfection is without ever having to create it. You wouldn't even need to experience it, which leads us down the same pathway of how did he create a whole bunch of angels and not know that they were going to rebel against him in his own house? He did. And then he continued to create them anyways, waited until they rebelled, cast his enemy down into the same place he was going to put his new creation. Did he want us to have a fighting chance or not? And if that wasn't bad enough, then he commanded and demanded that creation be subservient to him. You're all powerful. What do you need me to do for you? I'm giving you all the praise, all the glory, all the honor, all the worship to make you feel good because you have an ego? Around here telling people don't be envious of one another, but I'm a jealous God. Sir, why would you even give consciousness the possibility of being able to conjure up somebody else to worship if you ain't want no opposition? You created your own opponents in your map. No.
I love her.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
she's right too.
Sometimes she's pretty radical, but I love her. She challenges all those thoughts.
I was gonna actually that's the point I was gonna make. It's like, why would you send not even just condemn Satan to hell, but you give him dominion over the earth. It's like, why do we need the extra challenge? We got Trump and Doge. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need the extra challenge. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I don't know. I mean, sometimes I'll be looking at my little Marvel movies and I'm like,
oh, you see some stuff in there, don't you see it?
Yeah, the good guy, the bad guy, and the whole scenario of like, oh, if you smoke that Ebro, you going to hell, right? Like that. But if you want to go to heaven, it's this long ass process.
Right.
It's a long and drawn out process that you'll never be able to keep up with. Don't think about having sex. Impossible. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So right there, boom, you condemn, because it's like a man and a woman can be married, have a baby. Babies born into sin, because we are all born into sin.
Right.
Yeah. A man and a woman not married, just in the street, have a baby. The baby's born into sin. It starts to feel like, all right, what's the point? What's the point? I tell you what the point is. It's that money. It's $40,000. Close them goddamn doors. You know what I'm saying? It all comes back to that, because when a preacher is a millionaire, then he's blessed, right? He's blessed, and he's man of God. God blessed him. Well, I if I gave him $100, then I blessed him too. Am I God? You know what I'm saying? So, but and the whole, I got a stuff on earth, but my reward is in heaven. But not for this pastor though.
But not for
you know what I'm
people.
saying? Yeah, his reward is right now. You know what I mean?
So we'll make him special and not me special.
You're right. Exactly.
You know?
They kill her with that.
right. You know, and then there's what else I was about to say? I was going back to, the reward being in heaven. We got to play the long game. We got to suffer. You know, and they'll pull scriptures out of the Bible for that. What's the one about the rich man entering heaven, needle of an eye one?
Right.
You know, it's easier for a rich man something to enter the eye of a needle than to go get to heaven or whatever.
Right.
But the premise is being rich is bad, right? And
exactly.
So being rich is bad. However, when you get to heaven, you get to be rich. So how is being rich bad if it's okay in heaven, right? And if this was one of my most recent favorite, me and my daughters talk about the idea of, because we saw a post where they were talking about, your riches are in heaven and there's going to be a feast and right? However, we're spirits. What I need riches in heaven for as a spirit.
Yeah, and what I need was some baked chicken.
A physical body that need food. So it's still like, again, that's manipulating the mind, getting you to believe in something way at the end so that you'll suffer through this stuff right now. You know? The Bible say, I heard many times in church that in order to receive God's blessings, we need to give back to the church through our tithes and offerings.
Right.
Let's talk about the tithe and offering.
Yeah, you got to buy that blessing.
You got to buy
that blessing.
And I remember with the church me and my ex was going to, there was a lot of that. And what I started seeing was them bringing people, and they did it to us. I remember we were struggling to try to get another car, right? And so we got another car finally, went through hell and damnation, finally got the car. We tell everybody we got the car. They want us to stand before the church, right? So go up there and give your testimony. Cool. So we up there, and this was the situation, and this is what happened, blah, 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 blah. And we got blessed with another car. Boom, boom, boom. And literally, Pastor and his wife was sitting there, like basically egging us on to say, why? Tell us why. Because we went to the dealership. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
we got to prove.
You need to say, that you gave your tithes and offers. You need to say that it was a blessing from God. You needed to give God the glory for this thing, right? And all that. Right. And again, I'm not an atheist, so I do believe in the blessings of the Lord, right?
Amen.
And so, however, I know I did the work. I did what I was needed to do to get the car, right?
Right.
It wasn't like it came out of nowhere. We needed a car. We did the math. We figured out the finances. We went to the dealership, you know, and stuff. So we did what was necessary. Now, do I believe that we were given the right people at the right time that was willing to finance us and all that fell into place like it needed to? Absolutely, right? However, it wasn't because I returned tithes and offerings. It wasn't because of that, right? You know, and the idea that your tithe had to be to the church. Like, if I am required by Christian law to return a tithe of 10% of my net or my gross, because remember when they were having that conversation, you know, can I not give it to the homeless? Can I give it to an organization? Because basically churches are 501c3s, right? They're a nonprofit organization. Right? So I'm basically making a donation to an organization. Can I not make my donation to another organization who's doing something for the people in need? You know, no, I got to bring it to the church. Not that churches don't have expenses. Not that, you know, like, not that it don't cost money to turn these lights on. Because that is a real thing. However, let's talk about the fact that you're manipulating me into, when I tell you I paid for chairs at that one church 3-4 times. They kept asking for money for chairs. I had lost this how manipulated I was and brainwashed in that moment. I had lost my job and I was still giving money to the church. I needed to pay my bills and I was writing checks to the church. Crazy.
They were sitting in that pulpit like, gotcha, bitch. You know? We need more chairs.
We need more chairs. Never saw the chairs.
She loved
Never saw the chairs. And soon after, not too long after, they lost the lease in the building where they were. I remember calling my ex-husband and saying, "We getting evicted." And he said, "We getting evicted?" Because we was up for eviction. Right. No, the church, bro. The church. Right. And that was hurtful to the congregation because it was never truly explained. It was never, there was no,
well,
so we pouring all our money here and we ain't got no church home no more. Like no physical
and they in Hawaii. They in Hawaii like, doing the haka. They out there learning new shit.
Right.
Y'all asses out here struggling.
Or even the premise, and Brian, you remember when we was doing the open mic nights and stuff like that. And we called it a ministry because it was a ministry for the kids, right?
Right.
And I remember we started inviting the kids from our church and stuff like that. And they pulled us aside and said, basically, y'all ain't got no authority to do that. Nobody released y'all into ministry. I was like, well, when did I start needing permission to do
I want to know
what I do?
I mean, what school Jesus went to? Paul. Right. Any one of them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And my whole thing was I was ministering the way out with what God gave me
with the gift you were given.
That music. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
you know, because I mean, for that is the purpose, like, right. Anything that you are doing, like being a therapist is my ministry, right? Right. You know, it's my gift, and I'm using that gift. So I was also confused in that because there's the, you know, you can't use your gift in that way, but your gift supposed to make room for you. So like, which one is it?
Exactly. Exactly. Because with that example, they was perfectly fine with me using my gift there at that church because they were still doing things on cassette tapes. I was like, I said, you know what? Next week after I record this sermon, I got something for you. CDs. You don't have to use the cassette tape. You know what I'm saying? And when I was up there on that soundboard and that first open mic night, that money went back to LOCC. They was fine with that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All the money we raised went back to them. Was, of course, supposed to go to the youth ministry. No telling where maybe a car note, maybe a house note. I don't know. But it was fine there. But it's like any business. You got a talent, you can only use it here. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And the fact that they'll misuse you.
Mm-hmm.
They will misuse you. Because when I tell you, I was a worker, that felt like a job when I was at the church. Yeah. I was doing so much stuff. All this for free. Like, I need you to pay me for these services. You know.
No, they can't pay you for the services. You're doing that for the love of Jesus.
For the Lord. For the Lord. But I'm tired.
Why are you getting paid? No, we're not paying you. Are you crazy? You volunteering for the Lord. That's enough.
Right.
This is your one. This is the one step into the 7-step plan to get you into heaven.
Right. Yeah. But it's all slavery.
It is.
We don't care if you got to go to work to your real job in the morning. We need you here, and we're gonna pitch a bitch if you don't show up.
Thank you. Ain't gonna act a plumb fool if you don't, and guilt you and make you feel bad. Like, I can't believe
that's the big thing. Yeah, that's exactly how they make you feel. Like, you didn't let me down. You didn't let me down. You didn't let Fred down. You let Jesus down.
Right.
Exactly. Jesus looking at you right now in shame. Right. You need to turn away from the Lord for a minute. Let him calm down. Hallelujah. I'm not making fun of it, but church like, really is about church is really about emotionalism. It's an emotional connection.
Emotional manipulation.
Because I know Melissa was watching some TV show, but it was one of those church drama TV series. And I walked in the room right at the sermon, the sermon scene on the TV show. Froze in my steps. I was locked in. Like, I felt it all up in here. Yeah. Ain't know what was going on a TV show. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then I laughed and I was like, see that emotionalism? That's how they get you. That's how they get you. You know what I'm saying? And they touch your emotions. It's all about cadence. It's all about delivery. And of course, particular words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know somebody going through something right now. Of course. Of course, there's somebody going through something right now. You know what I mean? Turn it over to Jesus.
Right. Yeah, Rochelle. I ended up being like the person that transcribed the message and all that.
Exactly.
And oh God, yeah, you end up working. And there was another comment. I think here used to be about church isn't what it once was. It used to be about pouring in and uplifting the community, but not anymore. Right. And that's what I would look for in the church when I was still going, right? And when we were in Georgia, my ex found a really good church. Like, they used to have this ice cream truck and give out free ice cream to different, at different events and this and that. They were really pouring into the community because that's my requirement, right? And all that. Now, I don't prefer church at all right now. But like, if I was to go, it have to be some people that serve in the community and actually giving back and doing things, right? Where they went wrong is when the church went into nonprofit status. It became about capital. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely believe that. And it became about, like I said, capitalism is property and how much money can we draw in, and because again, it ain't just about paying these light bill. It's about more than that.
Yeah, it's about profit.
It's about putting me in a jail. Right.
Yeah.
And all of that. And in order to do that, that means also I have to demonize everything else out there. I got to demonize, your African practices and your spirituality, and don't use this, and witchcraft, and I got to demonize all of that and make that look bad in order for this to be the thing that you should do.
Yep.
Michelle said, I look for a church that isn't hypocritical in their message versus their mission. Are you doing what you preach? Amen, sister.
Yeah,
Amen.
And most of them don't. Most of them just don't. Because like the church you went to in Georgia that lost their building, they should have never lost their building. You should already
that was in New Orleans. That was in New Orleans.
Oh, in New Orleans, okay. but you should already had the funds to make sure that that church was going to run.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Because it's
Right.
not like if you got a congregation of 50, it's not like you're going to be collecting $500,000 every
Right.
Sunday.
Right.
Right.
But that's
So
why you have to build a mega church to do that.
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And
then while
them,
you're
and them churches got
while
investors. You know what I
you're
mean?
Churches do have
Yeah,
investors.
they're
Yep.
big. I
suffering
mean, big investors.
and
So
you
It's big business.
to tell you,
yeah,
Go on, Fred. You ain't cut out what you said.
I know, man. Looked like he was
no,
swatting a fly
I
for a
was
second.
no, I was saying because once you build a mega church, that's when they start asking for a certain amount.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's when that
they got
percentage
markers now. You
kicks in.
know.
Mhm.
Yeah, because then just like you said a minute ago, they got investors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They got
Yeah.
investors now. Because it's not like they out preaching all over the world. It's not like
Mhm.
1700s when when people used to go to Africa and everywhere else and just try and convert the world over to Christianity.
Right.
Y'all preaching right here at home, but now you got to pay everybody. We got to pay the pastor because he's super popular. He got our church. It's the reason why they're riding around in Lexuses and freaking BMWs.
Yeah.
It ain't,
Yeah.
Yep.
and then people get this status when they start going to certain churches.
Certain
Like
churches,
I
Ooh,
yeah.
told
yeah.
you
'Cause when I was at Greater
with the
St. Stephen,
lady,
you couldn't tell me shit.
You fancy
Greater
it.
St.
Paul
Stephen.
Martin is my pastor.
Right.
That's why
And they
when I
have
told the lady, when I told that lady I went to Willing Workers, and she went, I'm like, what's wrong with my church? Willie Sutton is a good pastor.
a good pastor, right?
Status
Because I
behind it.
don't, because status ain't gonna get your ass into heaven.
Well, but look, this
But
the thing too.
mhm.
It ain't about getting into heaven. It's about status. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it
When I
is.
first started going to Greater St. Stephen's, this chick, and remember back in the good old days, when you meet somebody, you be like, "Hey, how you doing? My name Brian. Hey, my name Jane." And it's what church you go to. That was
Right.
a
Yeah.
normal
Normal
get to know
question.
Yeah,
you
that
question.
was.
Yeah.
And when that girl asked me what church I went to, I was like, "Oh, I go to Greater St. Stephen's." And
Mhm.
she was like, "Dang, you go to Greater St. Stephen's?" I said, "Yeah, Pastor Paul Martin is my minister." And she was like, it was impressive.
Yeah.
It was status.
It
You
was.
It
understand what I'm saying?
is.
Now, Willie
It's
Workers is the
necessary.
bomb, baby, but
But yeah,
But
no,
yeah.
no,
if you was
I
under
saw it.
if you was under 55 at the time, it didn't carry much weight, man.
Right. Exactly.
No,
If you
you're
wasn't one of
right.
the founding
Yeah.
members,
Yeah.
that used to be my clout all the time.
Straws
No,
was there.
my family helped found that church.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
on the wall. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
we on the wall.
But
I
no,
remember
but
we used
Brian's
to have
right.
a chat.
Brian is right. Because when I started going to Franklin Avenue, I didn't pay attention to it. I was just going to
Exactly.
church. But people
Right.
got
Exactly.
excited when I said I go to Franklin Avenue,
Right.
Pastor. Oh,
Yeah,
Fred
because
Luda? Right.
they view you different,
Yeah.
and especially from a spiritual, and a Christianity standpoint. It's like, oh, you go there, oh yeah, well, you know the word, and then there's this expectation that comes with it. It's
Right.
like the difference between, back in the day saying I go to St. Aug, or I go to Nichols. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you was
Yeah.
at St. Aug,
St.
oh,
Aug, you-
shoot, boy, y'all,
ooh.
you got,
You-
not
you
only
got
are
that.
you smarter than me, you got money. You
Money.
know what I'm saying? So
Right.
so
Right.
it was status, and for real, unfortunately, that's what church it didn't become. It's a business, and I'm sorry, Holy Roller, it's a parade though.
It
It's a
is.
parade all about entertainment. Shit, look
Right.
at Kirk Franklin out there
Right.
gyrating his ass for the
Mhm.
Lord.
That man be jamming for the Lord, okay? But I want you to pay attention to this though, because in my exploring and learning, so sound, vibration,
Oh yeah.
all those things matter, right? And all
Honey.
that, because there are vibrations in sound that will take your brain back to the theta wavelength, which is your childhood sponge wavelength that goes
Right.
straight to your subconscious, right? And the lights, the cadence of the music, the sound, like all of that matters, right?
Right.
The
Even the
loudness of
background
music,
activity.
the background act,
Yeah, it
all
pulls
of
you.
that,
It pulls
yeah, like, and I saw a video the other day when I was looking for stuff. The idea of like, and this is psychological, right, and mental health wise. Like, if you are dysregulated, right, like you in fight or flight mode, your nervous system is on fire, right? You don't think. There's a part of your brain that literally turns off, right? And the way it was described to me in one training that I had was, if you meet a bear in the woods, you don't have time to figure out whether it's a black or brown bear. You just need to get the fuck, right?
Right.
And so that's why that part of your brain don't work, because the blood in your body starts to go to the places that it needs to either fight this sucker or get the hell out, right? And so because the brain gonna think that's what it does, right? And so if you get somebody dysregulated, they're not thinking, right? So that's where the overstimulation with the music and the rhythms and the, you know, and like you said, Brian, when you walked into that room and heard that music, it did something to your emotions.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and they're using that. They're using that, the repetition, like, you know, praise and worship songs are the same thing over and over and over and over. And then they get you into what, like, kind of this trance and all that. And right after that, there's usually an offering, or during that, there's an offering.
Right. That's why the offering song is so upbeat. And then somebody get on there, God love a cheerful giver. Oh, here I go. Yeah, I go. Got my $5 right
but
here.
You know, we like praise too.
Exactly.
We like accolades too. Let me tell you how
accolades.
You're doing a good job. And then I love a chill forgiver. Oh, and look at sister so-and-so and gave this, and brother so-and-so and gave that. So you sitting in your seat, you know you ain't got it to give, and you sitting there standing on business. I ain't got it to give. But at some point, here come the guilt and shame. And that's what they operate out of, guilt and shame.
Because the next time you barely got it, they got it all, baby. Got it all.
Yeah. And you can go and be like, I'm getting evicted. Well, I'm gonna pray for you. You just trust God, baby, because
you got to trust
He's gonna bring you
Jesus.
out. You know, and I'm like, well, I need $250 because that's all I'm short. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because y'all already know how I feel about that wait on Jesus thing. You wait on Jesus to help you with your problems. Your ass gonna be evicted or in jail.
I can segue that even into mental health. I have so many people that come to me, especially Black and brown folk, who get stuck in this, you know, I don't understand why God punishing me thing, or has been told time and time again when they're dealing with their mental health, well, you just give that to God. You just pray that away and all that. Like, therapists started wearing shirts that's like, you can have Jesus and a therapist. You can have both, right? You ain't got to just pray it away, because there are practical things that you have to do to deal with your mental health, right? There are things you need to talk about and all that. We can't just shove stuff under the rug and just say, I'm going to just go pray about it. You have to do something to make a change, to change.
Exactly. I mean, even the Bible say faith without works.
Thank you. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Hallelujah. Look, like, Al, put Al back up there. I was going to say that.
The second and fourth musical sounds is actually from African traditional spirituality.
I was going to say that. Good looking out, Al.
Yeah. And that's how they call spirit down for. Exactly. Exactly. And so that's the hypocrisy of it too, that you start to demonize all the African practices and all the things that, you know, our people had before, but you still use them same things to manipulate us now in Christianity.
Because it's familiar and we accept it. And once you see familiarity, your guard is down. You're like, wait, oh man, they know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So you feel like they're not gonna do me nothing because they on my level, they with me, you know?
Right. Right. Boy, I remember I had another moment. There's a couple of them, but this particular one, I remember the pastor's wife was preaching that day, and she's a prophet, right? And so I remember her making a comment that day about like psychics and all that, and like, you know, psychics are like they're prostituting their gift, right? And all that. And so I sat with, and I'm like, wait, if she's prophetic, so she basically is using a gift, right, to kind of foretell, try to tell me, like, you know, the possibilities of me being or doing, or, you know, and all that stuff, right? And I was like, that's pretty much what a psychic do. Same thing.
Isn't it though?
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
So when she said that day, that kind of hit me, and I was like, so you get to use your gift because you're in the church.
Right.
And they don't get to use their gift because they're not in the church and they charge a fee for it, but you charge the fee too. You're just not telling us it's the fee.
Oh yeah, you just don't
tell us.
Because after this prophetic message, you're going to take an offering, right?
Right.
And all that. And so what is the difference? And so for you to demonize somebody that's got your same gift, because it is a gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna demonize this person because you need to make the profit over here. You need them to not pay them and pay you.
Exactly.
Not cool shit.
Yeah.
Not cool shit. Not cool shit. So
that's exactly what it is. And it's real. It's for me. It's that simple. You know what I mean? Like it's that simple. Is the whole concept. The whole concept that, you know, what was that movie? Devil's Advocate.
Yes.
And there's this part at the end where the devil going off on Keanu Reeves, and he breaking all that, like, look, don't touch the taste, but don't eat. And I'm like, right, like the whole concept of that, I mean, it don't make sense. And like I said before, if it's all about us, well, why did you send Satan here? You're gonna let the dog out on us,
right?
with no protection,
right?
Except to hold fast, wait, and pray.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the whole while we're being manipulated by pastors and preachers of mega churches all over the world in Jesus' name at that. You know what I mean? And then there's no real retribution. Like, you know, you look at the state of times now. I'm pretty sure a lot of Christians and a lot of, you know, real, you know, people in the church are they either losing their minds, questioning everything.
Yeah,
or they just, you know, I'm gonna give it to God,
right?
And then sit and watch as a thing happens. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's wild, man. Well, y'all got
the biggest part of spirituality they removed in churches is something we already did in the South, was veneration and honor of our ancestors. Absolutely, they removed that part. They removed the honoring of the ancestors. I had one for that. I don't remember if I pulled it up or not, but I did find a pastor that I absolutely love because he challenges all the things.
It's Reverend Knight?
No, it's not Reverend Knight, but he did. Oh, I saw watching Reverend Knight.
Yeah.
That was my first pastor.
Yeah,
baby.
He challenges everything.
That boy was preaching knowledge.
Real quick, if y'all want to see another version of what you was just talking about, how God cast out the angels that and basically sent the devil on us from a different aspect. Again, we're going back to my Greek mythology.
Okay.
Clash of the Titans.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There was this little dude, Theseus, is his son. They released the Kraken on this country because they stopped praying to the gods. And in order to get them to pray to them,
again, they had to scare them.
We just gonna release the Kraken, and when he killing y'all gonna start praying to us again. We'll step in at the last minute like Superman and save you.
Yep. Using the tactic of fear. All right, this dude. It's not Reverend Knight.
Okay.
All right, let's deconstruct some harmful theology.
Are you ready to resist the devil until the day you die? Are you committed to putting to death what is earthly in you until the day you die? Are you content with not getting everything you want and scratching every itch and living with unsatisfied desires until the day you die? If you are, then welcome to Christianity. I think that's what this generation needs to hear. That Christianity is a faith that involves suffering. Christianity is a death sentence. Jesus said, if anyone will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me.
So the first lady of the closet, aka Sufferella, strikes again. But before I address her statements, I want to acknowledge the different audiences that converge on my platform. Some of you already know that her poisonous theology ain't shit, and you wish she would go away. But there are also a lot of you who still find yourselves moved by her rhetoric because she reinforces the church doctrine you're familiar with. You are the people I do this for. So let me say this. I actually agree with her. Her Christianity is a death sentence. Her Christianity does require you to resolve that your natural desires will go unsatisfied. Her Christianity is full of chosen suffering and human sacrifice. She's telling you that you have to sacrifice your humanity because that's what she's doing. That's what she's performing. She's a stud who is performing heteronormativity to guilt you into joining in her misery. Meanwhile, her pockets are being fattened with white evangelical fundamentalist dollars. At the foundation of all of her rhetoric is what I call filthy rag theology, rooted in you hating your own humanity. It's the theology white enslavers imposed on our enslaved ancestors. The point was to pacify them in their servitude with the promise of a heavenly reward in the afterlife. That's what she's preaching to you. She wants you to subscribe to the notion of Christian persecution in a country where Christianity is privileged, and she conveniently ignores all of the ways you are systematically marginalized because of your race, gender, or sexual orientation. She preaches the same theology as the Christian nationalists who condemn empathy as a sin. Her theology is dependent on you hating your humanity and believing that you deserve suffering and death. It causes you to believe that you need a sky daddy to make you worthy of love. And he comes with a bunch of arbitrary rules that make your life miserable
until the day you die,
with the promise of a reward in the afterlife. If that's what you want for your life, continue ingesting her poison. I'm just here to tell you there's another way that doesn't involve you being miserable. It doesn't require you to think there's something inherently wrong with you. It involves you loving the hell out of yourself. Because according to Jesus, the greatest commandment is incomplete if you don't love yourself just as you are. So I don't believe when Jesus said deny yourself, he meant deny your humanity. Loving your neighbor as yourself does not require you to deny your humanity. It does require you sometimes to deny your privilege and your comfort and your need for certainty. But anything that requires you to deny your humanity is indeed a death sentence. My desire for you is that you live and not die. Now, we talked about this at length on our most recent podcast recording in Patreon called Deconstructing the Sin of Empathy. If you want to watch the replay type episode in the comments, you can either subscribe to one of our paid tiers on Patreon or purchase the episode a la carte from our Patreon shop.
Yeah, that's the Christian A. Smith. I love a lot. There was a lot of content I could have used for him.
Yeah.
You know. A lot. And I ran across him on TikTok one day, and he said something profound that made sense. And I was like, oh, I need to follow this dude. And he challenges all of the things. And one other thing that, yeah, that's him. That's him out. And I like the fact, yeah, because she is stud. You saw she was a stud.
I know. Look, she had that unnecessary cap on and shit.
Right, yeah,
cap
need
on,
that
on purpose.
You know, and because in one of his other clips, he mentioned that he's not denouncing Jesus because that's who he grew up with. That's what he learned, and he do still believe, right? And all that. But he can also call on his ancestors, right? And so, like, what is the problem with being able to incorporate those two things? And people struggle even with questioning. They struggle with questioning because, again, we talked before about cognitive dissonance and how challenging your core belief systems, like, it send you for a loop, right? Because now you're like, what do I believe now? Well, you have to develop your own belief system that works for you. And let's be real, Christianity as it's given to us does not work for us. It worked for everybody else at the top. It worked for the pastor, it worked for the preacher, it worked for the white man, it worked for capitalism.
I think that was George said they give us rules to make them feel safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That was George.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so if you subscribe to because again, I don't believe that Jesus didn't exist. Like, you know,
Right.
like I wholeheartedly believe there's a creator, absolutely. But I don't believe the creator created me to be suffering. Right.
Exactly. I mean, because
Right.
right. What was the point of that?
Right.
But right.
Unless
You know?
we talk in Greek mythology, what's the point
Right.
of that? You know what I'm saying?
And if you see God as a father, right?
Mm-hmm.
And y'all are daddies, right?
Sure.
Right.
And I'm a parent.
Yeah.
And if I see as a parent, I birthed these children, I created these children, right? I would never put my children in the kind of position that Christianity says God put us in.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I just would not.
mean,
There's no way I would do that. You know. Al said, I saw a post where a white pastor basically said that Jesus did not want his teachings to be turned into a religion. Ooh. Jesus basically said, walk like me and love like me. We all know even Jesus turned over tables. Flip them tables.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing right now. We're flipping tables. We're flipping tables.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
yeah,
because
no, I mean,
that's what being a Christian is. It's this walking, talking, being like Jesus. And Jesus hung out with hoes.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Hoes, thieves, po people, street niggas, all that shit.
All
He
that.
hung out with the average Joe on a
Yep.
regular basis.
On a regular basis, right? And poured into their lives and told stories and told them they was worth it. They told them they were somebody. You know, he reminded them how great they are and that, you know, that God lives in them, right? When he was asked, you know, who are you? Like, I am that I am. That's it. You know, you are who you are. You are what you are, you know.
Yeah.
And so go ahead, Fred.
No, I was just saying it's, you know, it's crazy that when you really sit down, because I think especially like from our generation back, a lot of those rules were like burned into us. The don't question nothing. If you even said something that even halfway sound like you was questioning the word of the Lord, you might have got hit upside your head 50 times by 50 adults in the house.
Right.
You know, but when you sit down and can rationally sit down, and that's the thing, that they don't want us to rationally sit down and read this. So when you sit down and you read it, and it's like,
and it don't
this
make
don't
sense.
make no sense. So
it's contradicting itself.
if I'm supposed to live like the word in this book, if my kid come up to me and say, Dad, I need $300, I'm gonna get put out my house. Well, son, I don't know what to tell you, bro. I got it, but I ain't giving it
I
to
got
you.
it, but I'm not giving it to you.
You need to suffer, you know.
Right.
Give it to Jesus. He got you. Don't worry
Right.
about it. You know, and then don't let him move in when he get kicked out. You know, figure it out.
Right. Figure it out yourself. Now, and of course, even in situations like there are times when you know as a parent your child needs to figure the thing out. You know when that is, but that's not always right. And it's not that you turn your back. You know, like, okay, I'm gonna teach you how to figure this thing out. I'm gonna help you along because you just don't know, baby. You know, that kind of stuff. You know, and Jesus would be deported right if he was living now. for his teachers and stuff. Not absolutely. You know, he would be silenced, which basically that's what they did. That's what they did. They silenced him. They did silence him. And you know, and I started seeing Jesus as in the same light that I see every revolutionary that came through.
Exactly.
Right? He's a Malcolm X. He's a Martin Luther King. He's like, you know, a Nat Turner. Like he's a radical. You know, he's radical and he's you know, revolutionary. You know, and so he was trying to change the game. And then he got rid of him like they do everybody else.
Yep.
No different, you know. As you said, Job is only one story in the Bible, but your poverty and struggle doctrine will make you think he's a main character. Oh yeah. Makes you think he's the main character. Yeah. There are like 16 books missing from the Bible. Yeah.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
all the ones that tell you to love you and all the
Exactly.
beautiful
Right.
things around you.
Around you, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if
It's
there
all
ain't
about
no
your
beauty, you got to
connections
make
and
some beauty. You know
right.
what I'm saying?
Right. You
And
know.
yeah, and that's another thing for me. Why are there so many versions of the Bible? Now I'm not talking about the slave Bible. I'm talking about
Mm,
the regular Bible.
mm,
It's like
Yeah,
6 or 7 different versions of this book. And
mm-hmm.
right,
everybody used the version that's gonna work best for them.
That worked for them. That's the truth. That's the truth.
right.
You know.
Yeah.
And somebody, I think the same girl I had pulled up, Jasmine Garden, had mentioned in one of her videos, like, how come Jesus didn't have a book in the Bible, since I mean he's the focus, right? So
Right.
everybody else around him wrote these stories, but he didn't write one. Why? Why not? Why we didn't get his
Exactly.
verse?
Right.
You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there's no turn to the book of Jesus, chapter 1, verse 8.
They got all his words in red, but we don't like what is his version of the thing,
Right.
you know, and all that. So here's a little something more about the guilt and shame.
Believers, are you being manipulated? Let's be real for a second. If you walk into most churches, you will find people who genuinely want to do good, but at the same time, there are old school manipulation tactics that keep people stuck, feeling guilty, and giving all their time and money to keep the machine running. Now, I'm not here to clown every believer. I'm here to show how certain church structures can play on your heartstrings and your wallet. So let's jump right into the top 10 ways that the church manipulates its followers. And by the end, you'll see how you can love yourself, find community, and stay open-minded without getting hustled. Let's hit the first one. Number 10, constant guilt and sin emphasis. So you ever notice how half the sermon is about how broken you are? Like you didn't already wake up with your own stress? The pastor says, remember, your very thoughts could be wicked, evil, or sinful. They reel you in with this constant sense of, I messed up. But guess who has the so-called fix? The church. The more guilty, desperate, or broken you feel, the more you lean on their version of salvation, and the more you become dependent on them for relief. In this context, help becomes a who instead of a how. Feeling messed up doesn't mean you're worthless or you need a preacher's stamp of approval. You deserve to heal, not drown in shame. Guilt, shame, and sorrow triggers your desire to get right. So you keep coming back. It's an emotional hamster wheel. They break you down, then sell you the cure. You ever felt like guilt was fueling someone else's solution? Imagine how that might look if you flipped the script and took ownership of your healing.
And speaking of that, that's an issue for me as a mental health practitioner, with the not taking your own responsibility for your own healing, right? I can't leave it to everything, all the entities outside of myself, because I'm responsible for my own healing. I'm responsible for moving forward. I'm responsible for getting a job. I'm responsible for taking care of myself. I am responsible for those things. And no entity outside of myself is responsible for that. Right?
Yep.
Al says there are several religions thousands of years older than Christianity. Just keep decolonizing your relationship with the divine if it applies. Right? And so the guilt and shame factor, as a matter of fact, I think I told y'all, I was telling y'all, Creflo Dollar, it was right around COVID time. He came out and was like, we've been doing it wrong. We've been doing it wrong. I was trying to find a clip. And saying, like, you know, we've used guilt and shame and fear as a tactic and all that. And so he did a whole little sermon on it or whatever. But as I was looking for that clip, I noticed now he's created his entire platform around guilt, shame, and fear. Still doing the same thing.
Yep. There you go. He had a moment of clarity.
All he did was change his message and made it relevant. And so, like, that was a turning point where he recognized that, but now he's still using that as his platform to still do what he do.
Right. Make money.
Still, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Jet need gas, you know.
And I said you're right about those several versions of the Bible. Most people use the King James version. King James wrote a book on demonology. I just learned that too. Also, he was a pedophile. How many of these people who weaponize the Bible know that? I just learned about him writing the demonology thing. Yeah.
But you know what? I feel very confident that most pastors know that. You know, I feel
the
like
guy that I just played, he said that in one of his clips because he's a former pastor, and he said,
he used to be a pastor.
He said at some point during this theology game, you start to question it yourself, right?
Right.
And he said, and most pastors will be like, this don't make sense, right? And be real about it, but it does not benefit them to come out and say that, right? It doesn't benefit them, right? Because they'll lose stature, they'll lose fans, they'll lose everything that they've gained. So they be quiet and they just keep preaching what they preach because that's the game that they playing. And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate, which is why I really like Christian A. Smith, because he's challenging those status quos and he's a preacher's kid too,
right,
and stuff. So like he's understanding it from so many different angles and being able to incorporate the spirituality and the Christianity, like, because a lot of people also feel like, okay, if I give up Christianity, I need to get something, right? And all that. Right. And you have to figure out what that something is for yourself. I'm not here to tell you what to do, right? And all that. But being able to, like, the fact is, if it's not rooted in freedom, why you want it?
Exactly. That's the key. That is the key thing. Like you shouldn't be shackled to your worship. You know what I mean? You should never be shackled to your worship.
Right. Because your spirituality is freedom, right? There's supposed to be like freedom in Jesus, right? And so Rochelle says that's what I always appreciated about my dad. He was very candid with me when I asked logical questions about religion, even at 7. And we need to do that for our kids.
Yeah. Don't lie to them. Yeah.
Because to be honest, the kids start asking those questions of, like, they break that stuff down themselves. Like, that don't make sense.
Right.
I remember when I don't
think parents, I don't think they lie to their kids. I think they believe what they've been taught. You know what I mean? They believe what they've been taught. So they never took time to really look it up for themselves, though. And even without studying the Bible from Genesis to Revelations, you still have heard something and was like, yo, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You done heard something.
But remember, too, kick back to what you was talking about earlier. We was told never to question it.
Right.
So we didn't look it up.
Right.
We didn't look it up. We just took it for face value.
I mean,
you're the adult. You know what you're talking about. I trust
I mean, as a child, though,
you're
not gonna look it up. We went to church on Sundays because that was what we did on Sunday. And then when I came home from church, I was a kid again. You know what I mean? I fulfilled my Sunday obligation. Like we weren't invested in the spiritual part as children. And it wasn't until I was an adult and making the conscious choice where I don't have to go now, but I'm gonna go. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I began to, hear things and be like, wait a minute.
You
know what I'm saying?
Right.
Hold up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That didn't make no sense to me. Right?
Exactly. And then at some point I made a decision like, kids was like, Dad, we going to church? Nah. we ain't going this Sunday. Let's cut the game on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I gave my kids like the freedom themselves, like explore all the stuff yourself. Whatever you choose for yourself is what you choose for yourself. The youngest ain't never subscribed to Christianity. She just has been exploring all the things and figuring out what speaks to her, right? And I like that she has that freedom and all that, because she's not caught into a mindset of any sort, right?
Right.
And it forces her to believe in herself, right? I gotta believe in me to do this thing, right? And all that. And I think that what you were saying, the fact that like we
through
went to
that,
church. What else said? I love it time because 2020 gave us plenty of time to sit. Oh, yes, it did. This is one of my favorite things to deconstruct. Yes. But just the idea that we wholeheartedly believed what was said, but didn't ask any questions, right? And then you start breaking that stuff down for yourself as an adult, but then you have to figure out, okay, what direction do I go in now, right? And what do I believe? Because if you attach yourself to any particular thing and it enslaves you, because you can be enslaved by spirituality as well if you lock yourself into the rules, guidelines. You know, you can only pray when you got a crystal in your hand. Like you're still doing the same thing.
Right. And it got to be a blue crystal.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
So you're still locking yourself into doctrine rather than experiencing the freedom that is. The Bible is a tool, just like crystals and all that stuff. Those are tools. Those are tools that we use to get what we need to get or whatever. But the truth lives inside of us, right?
Right.
And all that. We just have to be willing to explore that and believe that.
Right.
You know?
And I'm sure it's difficult for believers because it's scary. You know what I mean? Like it's scary as hell. Gotta be scary as hell to go from this was my life and this is what I believe, and all of the good that I have, even if that good is just I'm alive today. I faced back to this foundation. And now you're saying maybe that foundation it's not what I thought it was. It's a scary thought. You know what I mean? Because it's like because you're scared if you let it go, you're gonna get hit by a car tomorrow. And I mean, if people actually think like something's actually gonna happen. There was a brother in church one time. He was like, you know, I don't make no moves without praying first. You know, I pray about everything, every decision I make. And I was like, you prayed about them socks you got on? Well, no, not that. I said, then don't exaggerate. You don't pray about everything. You praying about, should I put this money down on this house? It's something big. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, but yeah, you know, when I get it, that's God. I said, then who is it when you don't get it, though?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he was like, you know, there ain't nothing but the devil trying to block my blessings. Or maybe you just didn't have a 780 credit score.
Thank you.
That you knew already. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like I said, you know, everything is not that, because if it were, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? My biggest question has always been, why were there so many miracles back then? And there ain't no miracles.
No miracles now.
Ain't no
Exactly.
Ain't nobody parting the canal. Nobody parting Lake Punch train so we can get to slide out quicker. You know what I'm saying? Like none of these things are happening. So the evidence of God mostly for today's believer is based on faith. Faith is a hard thing to shake. You know what I mean? It's a very difficult thing to shake.
Yeah. But I think it's also difficult because, again, it puts the responsibility on you rather than a deity, right? Because if I can blame God or the devil, whether it be good, bad, or ugly, right? You know, because they do that too, even with, why you ain't get your $1,000 yet or whatever. Oh, it's all in God's timing. Maybe you ain't got the right steps in order, right? You know, you know, and I do stuff like that, like for myself, you know, and me and friends talk about all the time. Not necessarily wanting to be a millionaire, cajillionaire. I just want to be able to pay bills and do what the hell I want to.
Exactly.
Put myself on auto pay without thinking about it. Okay.
Auto pay. That's my dream.
Without looking at my bank account.
Even if I had Elon Musk money, I'd still be scared to put shit on auto pay.
Right? Scary, right?
Like, nah, I want to get something else.
Auto pay, Jesus.
Yeah.
But if I'm believing for that, and I'm doing my works to match my faith, right? And I'm putting things in action and all that. That don't mean I instantly become a millionaire tomorrow. Things have to be put in place, right? And so I definitely believe, you know, I can look at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, well, you're not managing your money well. Why on earth would you be given $1 million by anybody, right? You know, why don't you get this in order and get that in order, and then maybe you can see that $1 million. Something come up soon, You know, and so again, that's putting the onus back on me, but not on, you know, oh well, the things of the universe or the spirit didn't give it to me because, well,
that's a
my
good question too.
That is a good question.
I'm asking for
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Because you know what? Nobody never really thought about that. Nobody, and I ain't gonna lie, I never really thought about. Well, I've always noticed how many people God killed, slayed a whole bunch of people. Because my problem with the world, when he flooded the world, I remember I asked Mimi, I said, I know there was some little bitty babies.
That's right.
Who hadn't done anything. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And why was Noah's family so special? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And why did he leave the damn unicorns and the dragons? We could have used those.
We could have used them.
Know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
But I do not recall nowhere in the Bible where the devil
you'll never see it
killed somebody. He's just inherently evil.
Okay. But think about every movie
he inherently
you've
evil
ever
because
seen.
he disobeyed God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but every time something happened, they blame it on the devil. But he's not killing nobody. I mean, Devil's Advocate is the best example. I done watched that movie so many times, it's ridiculous.
Right, because
all he did was tell the truth.
Yeah,
that's it.
And everything that Keanu Reeves did was Keanu Reeves' choice. He gave and he actually gave him out.
He gave him out
every freaking time. Huh.
All right, I thought you didn't want to be in the conversation.
Now I'm hitting the wrong buttons because I'm choking.
Man, you got to get drinking water, not spring water. You black.
Doing what I can, man. Yeah, you know. But that's a good point. That's a good point. And I've seen challenge the idea that what if who we believe is God is the devil and vice versa.
I heard somebody say that once though.
Yeah, I did hear somebody say that.
You know, because that and some people will take it back to the Garden of Eden story, right? And be like, so like, why would God not want y'all to have the knowledge of good and evil, right? Because if you can't you're gonna give me free will, but I can't touch that, but you still give me restrictions.
Right.
What's the use of free will if you got if you got restrictions, and you got restrictions to the thing that's greatest to you, which is knowledge.
Right.
Why? Again, would a father, would a parent make a creation and be like, yeah, but I don't want you to have no knowledge unless you just want to control.
Right. And this is what I want viewers and listeners to think about. It's like I'm gonna put you in this garden and I'm gonna put the key to knowledge and wisdom right over there.
Right there. Yeah.
Right there. and but you can't touch it. Why you put it there? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Why did you put it there?
It's a setup. That's a setup.
Exactly.
Like giving a child a piece of candy and saying, don't touch it.
Right.
Oh, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, if you believe the Bible verbatim,
that all the time.
And also it's like it was wrong for them to take from that tree, but they didn't know right from wrong.
Thank you.
You see what I'm saying? So
because the knowledge of good and evil wasn't upon them, right?
Right.
They
was
just
right and
chilling
was
in the
wrong.
garden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that tree stood out like a mug. You know what I'm saying?
Anytime you can't have something, it's standing out like a mug. Anybody tried changing their diet and decided I'm not gonna fuck with sugar no more, or I'm not gonna fuck with candy no more, or I'm not gonna. What's your mind be calling out to? The thing that you told you said you wasn't gonna have.
Exactly. It becomes very particular and right in that moment. Yeah.
Thank you. Very, very particular, because that is where your focus is. You know,
because that's my whole. I asked Shirley about that one time with the tree. I'm like, if they couldn't eat from that tree, why would he even put that tree there in the first place?
That's cruel and unusual punishment.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like that guy with that dollar on that fishing pole.
Everybody be quicker than that. Yeah, you quicker than that.
But I mean, I remember when I first heard that story as a kid, you know, not a little bit of, not a baby, but you know, as a elementary school kid. And I remember thinking like, that don't, you know, like, why would he do that? And then for real, I just threw it in the back of my mind and was like, well, as I get older, I'm sure it'll make sense.
sense, yeah.
But it don't still don't make no
It still
sense.
didn't. And I'll say, let us remember that Satan was God's favorite angel. We have to understand that dark and light coexist in harmony with one another. God is all things. I believe we have a symbiotic relationship with God. Me too. I think so too. I think that relationship is symbiotic. It's a give and take. We both, you know, we working together to do the things, right? You know, as which will make this sense. Like we are co-creators, right? We are meant to create, right? Go forth and multiply. Don't just mean have a bunch of babies, y'all. Like again, stop looking at stuff so verbatim, or stop letting other people tell you what those things mean. Because that was another area I had in my life where I read a particular scripture and I was like, you know, going through a particular thing, and I was like, that means such and such to me, right? A couple of years later, exact same scripture, but different circumstances and different view, right? It meant something completely different, right? And I was like, the Bible is up for interpretation, right? So it depends on how you read it and what you're going through and like how you see a thing and all that. I tell stories of my own with my clients, right? You know, something that makes me a little different. But sometimes I share a story for one purpose, and then the client would be like, you know what that made me think of? It'd be something way different, right? And I'm like, oh, well, whatever you got out of it, cool, right? But I told it for a particular reason, but you got something different out of it, right? And so every story is like that. The Bible for me is a fantastic book, yo. It's a fantastic book. Got great things in it, right? As long as you're not trying to follow it verbatim, you're fine. But it's symbolic, right? And just like we read other stories that have metaphors and parables and, you know, like you get lessons from different things and different stories and all that. What's the lesson you getting from this particular story on this day based upon what you're going through, right? Instead of, you know, a very strict and do exactly what this say. That don't make sense. That just don't make sense.
Right. And you'll never be able to maintain that. But look, Asher had put something up there
earlier.
Oh, but he was saying Adam and Eve were the first people ever. Nobody ever lied before. So what other conclusion were they supposed to come to? But here's a little catch with that. Adam and Eve weren't the only two people.
No, they weren't.
When Cain killed his brother, and you know, God was like, yo, bro, y'all gotta go. Y'all gotta get out of this garden. He said, yo, don't send me out there. They gonna kill me. And he said, I'm gonna protect you. But I'm like, if it was just y'all, who are you talking about?
Somebody fix that story for me then.
Right. And the assumption is that they were just more intelligent than the people on the outside.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Which could be, I don't know.
It was guys, special people.
Right.
Okay. And now and then that make me want to ask more questions. What made them so special?
Right. They was white.
I was just about to say that. I couldn't say it fast enough.
They were white people.
And this is why
this is why white people act the way they act.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Negroes on the outside, Negroes and Mexicans.
Yeah.
Few Asians.
Negroes. Oh goodness! I mentioned earlier I had a few questions to ponder. If our enslavers introduced us to God, who exactly were they introducing us to?
Well, that is true. I guess to their version. To their version of God, the one that worked best for what they was trying to accomplish.
Right.
And I don't think slave owners were idiots.
They
knew that hope would work. They knew hope would work. They wasn't sure, but they were very confident. And as soon as we had a platform, plus we didn't have anything that was ours, but now we got God. We got this.
But they took away what we did have, though.
Right, exactly. And we saw the slave owners, we saw the white folks, they love God too. So maybe there's a balance here. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe there's some kind of, camaraderie. You know what I'm saying? That we could have. And then once they hit them with the obey your master for the rest of your freaking life thing, because I think during slavery there had to have come a point where I need to make sense of my situation.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And if
I become that to make sense.
Exactly.
They fed them to God to make it make sense.
Yep. Yeah, yeah. He was the go-between. He was the go-between.
Right.
They gave us what they needed us to have. And they still are. You know what I mean? They still are. They still are. And that's why, they got that money.
Right.
And they
black. But Christianity is time tested. They've been conquering other countries in the name of God since King Arthur's time. Every war during that time that was started was behind religious reasons. And they all that's how they rallied their troops to go fight the wars. You're gonna get your blessings when you get to heaven. You watch every Thor movie. It's the same thing. Oh yeah, you're doing this now, but don't worry. When you die, Thor, you get all your blessings when you get to Valhalla. You good.
Yeah.
But I need you to fight Thanos right now. But it was time tested. So they had time to perfect that. So by the time, and they've been enslaving people forever.
Yeah. There was always a high
group. And I'm pretty sure in the beginning they had rebellions because who voluntarily wants to be a slave? Yeah.
Right.
I'm not gonna. So I gotta break you. I gotta give you something to hope for.
I have to manipulate the mind.
Yeah. And this is what it is.
Which was 100% more powerful than the whip. It was stronger than the whip. It was stronger than the threat. It was stronger than the beatings, because once we got into the spirituality, now we believe it too. We believe we're supposed to be here at least for some period of time. You know what I mean? Because when I was a kid, and I don't know if I told y'all this before, I actually believed that black people weren't supposed to have shit.
Right, you did.
You know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't even a question. Like, oh, we just not supposed to have shit. You know what I'm saying? So if once you got the belief system, it is easier to control in a large group of people.
Right.
And there's a part in the Bible that shows you that God can deliver you out of slavery. He did it for the Hebrews in Egypt.
Ooh, see that part right there.
He delivered them.
Right.
He opened up the ocean and said, "Y'all come on over here, go to Israel." So when back in the 1800s, and they was telling the slaves, "Oh yeah, God can deliver you from slavery. You just gotta wait." I got proof right here. See, Moses. He picked Moses. Moses went and got his people. You just gotta hold on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they held them for 400 some odd years.
Right, playing the long game. Right.
Right.
And for a lot of people, think about it. For a lot of people, Malcolm X was that Moses.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think every leader has become a Moses in themselves, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they call Harriet Moses, right? Because came to free the people. I see myself as a Moses because I'm trying to free my people from the mental bullshit, right?
And Isaac Hayes, that was Black Moses. Right. Now I don't know if he freed nobody, but he made some good ass music.
Well, music frees.
Yeah.
Huh?
Music frees.
Oh, this is true. This is true.
You know what I'm saying? They always got messages in our music, baby.
And white people could just, they could have shot us up in the 60s if they wanted to.
No,
they could have wiped us out centuries ago. But when you don't wipe out your commodity. You don't wipe out what's making you money.
Because your lawnmower ain't working right, and you cut lawns for a living. You ain't gonna tear the fucking lawnmower down.
I'm all up. Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
You're giving them little rules. You let them think they're getting ahead, and then you get to today. What Trump doing? He in there stripping all that stuff that they worked on from the 60s all the way up to now. He can't really do it because Congress got to dismantle the majority of that stuff.
Right.
But
right. He's still gonna try.
Yeah, it's a great distraction for him to do whatever else he want to do for right now.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Who benefits when your power is labeled rebellion and your intuition is labeled sin?
The church.
The church.
They could stick you with all kind of sins. What you breathing? That's sin nowadays.
Right. Because who determines what the sin is?
Exactly.
And even up under the umbrella of Christianity, look at how different religions and different sects of religions have their particular rules, or women can't do this, or y'all gotta wear skirts and there be no makeup, and and stuff. And so it's another good question that's not on my sheet but made me think of. So how do you know the difference when you are the difference between religion and a cult? Or are they the same?
They're pretty close.
They're pretty close to the same.
I mean, I've been in church a long time, but I ain't never been in a cult. So not that I know of. So I wouldn't know what.
When I go back and look at my old church, I see it like I see cult behavior.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah, a lot of churches are banana peel away from being a cult.
Right.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Is your spirit saved or is it suppressed?
Saved or suppressed?
Mm-hmm. Because they keep telling us like we're saving our spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is your spirit saved, or are you suppressing your true spirit and who you are? Because I see our spirit as like, this is a body. My spirit lives in this body, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I'm not allowed to be my full self, my full real live self, right? Then you're suppressing who I am, because I'm not allowed. For example, if I'm a Black woman, I ain't allowed to be loud, or otherwise you're calling me ghetto, right? And all that. So if I can't be my natural loud self without an accusation or without condemnation, then you're suppressing who I am, right? If I can't come in this church without stockings on, because stockings is required,
and a
right?
girdle,
and a girdle,
and a girdle,
then you're suppressing who I am, and you're forcing me into this little box that I have to perform in, right? And we talked before, like even with preachers' kids, trying to stay in this little box, but they start wilding out real bad because you kept them in this little box for so long.
It's hard to be in that box. I think suppressed, because I actually, at one point in my life, in my 20s, mm-hmm. I tried to live directly by the book.
I've had my moments too.
It's hard. Yeah, I didn't feel like myself.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like me, because I'm like, oh, I can't say that. I can't do this. I can't do that. Mm-hmm. I can't this. And then I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna be me.
And that's what happens. That's exactly what happens when people get fed up, because it's too much. It's too much for anybody to handle. You cannot live by all of those contradictory rules.
Right.
Yeah. I said screw it. Yeah, I said screw it. If I go to hell, I go to hell. And that was it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Precisely. So something I asked earlier, did you choose your beliefs or were you born into your bondage?
I was born into it.
Yeah.
Shirley didn't give us a choice on Sunday. You had to go. Right. The only way I got out of that was because my grandfather wanted to go fishing with me on Sundays. So I don't even remember. I think it was like the second Sunday, and maybe it was just that Sunday. It ended up being 2 Sundays as I got older. But at one point, you had to go to Sunday school, regular church, whatever program you
was. Or if it was a program
choice. Yeah.
Baby.
You was in church from 4:45 in the morning and sometimes 5 o'clock in the evening. You know, only good thing if it was a program that fried chicken was kicking. You know,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
the only plus.
During the summer holidays, you had to go to vacation Bible school. We wasn't living with Shirley and
And he still
had
had to go.
to go. Had to go.
Right. You had no choice.
Yeah.
And when I used to come for the summer, I spent half the summer with Mimi and Papa, and the other half with my Lima side. But both grandparents had the same policy. You was going to church on Sunday. And my mama didn't do much church, so we didn't do much. We didn't go to church like talking about it. But during the summertime, we was going to church.
Right.
Damn scared people going to church. You know. I've been watching Escaping Polygamy, and they constantly say, I'd rather go to hell than be in this. But I mean, let's be real, like when you're living like this and you got your mindset stuck and all that, you are in hell. You are in hell. That's a hellish existence, to be trapped and not be able to be your full authentic self and not being able to even take accountability for your own shit. Right? Because I thought about that even when we talk about, okay, if things happen that's good, then it's like, oh, God gave it to me. So you're not even going to acknowledge the work that you did and what you put in?
That's what was the hardest part for me when I tried to live directly by the book. I don't get credit for anything. I'm just
all
stupid.
Praises go to God.
Yeah, I'm just stupid. Nothing that I don't do nothing for myself. God does everything for me. But if He gave me a brain where I can make conscious and free will to make conscious choices, you telling me I don't make my own conscious choices? He makes the choices for me.
Right.
So then if I make a bad choice, then He's making a bad choice for me if I go by the book.
Okay.
if I mess around and shoot somebody in the head, I didn't make that. I didn't make that choice.
Right.
Or do He only make the good choices?
Right.
And then He let me make the bad choices.
Right. So then I don't get.
Or is it the devil? I don't know.
Right. Or is it the devil?
But then at that point, then you don't really control my choices.
Right. And what am I living for if I'm not making my own choices?
So if I can't leave it up to you, and I don't want to leave it up to the devil, guess who I'm gonna leave it up to? Myself.
Right. You know. And that, like I said, I think that's taking away from our confidence, right? Our confidence in ourselves and all that. Because if I don't give myself credit for doing the work necessary to get this thing or do this thing or whatever, and everything is up to Sky Daddy, right? And all that, then when do I get to celebrate myself? When do I get to say, look at the work I put in?
Because all praises go to God.
All praises go to God.
You didn't do it. You didn't do it. He did it for you.
Yeah.
He did it for you.
Yeah.
And
when I had that feeling in real life, when I graduated high school and my mama wanted me to give her my diploma, and she said, "This is mine because I did the work." And I was like, "Well, what was I?" My mama told me that. She felt like she had did the work to keep me in, keep me going, all that good stuff. So
I love your mama. I don't remember seeing her walk in halls at Nichols.
But that's black people tradition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just like because the high school diploma, your social security card, your birth certificate, your mama got all that stuff.
That's there.
It's your number, but it's my call. You know what I'm saying? So
you're not responsible enough to hold on to that.
But even that comes from slavery, though. Ownership.
Yeah.
It's ownership. You belong to me, so all your accomplishments also belong to me.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and it's that, and it's a pro side because they had to take care of your documents. You know what I mean? It's traditional. You know.
Well, yeah.
But I see that a lot. I do see that a lot, though. Like with the NBA draft and the NFL draft, I've talked to people who kids are like athletically gifted,
Mhm.
and they'll take credit for all of their achievements. If I didn't take you to practice, but I think that young man might have found a way to get to practice if that's
Right.
really what he wanted to do.
If you wanted to do that, right?
Right.
You know, this is a and I while we was talking, I went to go look for this on purpose because it talks about the mindset, and it's from the movie The Woman King.
Oh my.
Look at them. Many never thought it possible, but we believe. That is what makes a great leader. Seeing what others do. The Europeans and the Americans have seen if you want to hold a people in chains, one must first convince them that they are meant to be bound. We join them in becoming our own oppressor, but no more. No more. We are a warrior people, and there is power in our minds, in our unity, in our culture. If we understand that power, we will be limitless. My people, this is a vision I will lead. It is a vision that is shared.
In order to enslave a people, you must first convince the people that they are meant to be enslaved.
Yeah, that's the only way to work.
Because they were
And
selling their own people to
right.
the Europeans and the Americans.
Right.
You know, some white man called me on that out in public. Nowhere near, I don't even remember. Yeah, I saw the Woman King. See, y'all was slave owners too. I'm like, no, dude, we wasn't slave owners. We was just selling our own people.
Right.
Right.
I didn't even.
Watching that movie, it will show you like that there were certain tribes that had decided to capitalize, right? And
capitalize that.
And all that, and then they would go and steal people from other tribes to sell their people, right?
Right.
So you try to protect your own, right? But they coming in and because they decided I'm about to make this money. I'm about to make this money.
Instead of killing them when they fighting in wars, now I'm just gonna catch you.
Exactly.
Yep. And you see a reflection of that in today's society. You know what I mean? You'll get a whole murder album. It's always black on black. You know what I'm saying? We ain't never killing no white folks in no rap record.
Right. Exactly.
Because if they was already at war.
Sound like?
Huh?
What would that even sound like? It would do a rap album.
Listen to a Public Enemy album.
Well, yeah.
It sound like white folks buying that shit up too. Yep. Because the Public Enemy and X-Clan. That was the only two groups I ever heard just blasting on. That's how I knew that wasn't gonna last, you know.
Right. Yeah. Right. But even you can look at Public Enemy, like, but then where Flavor Flav ended up.
Yeah, right back in the industry, talking about
playing for the white man.
Love, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like they still like rebranded him basically. Right? Because before it was Fight the Power, right? And when you saw him, that's what that represented for you. And now we think Flavor of Love. He started
exactly, but not Chuck D though.
Not Chuck D.
Not Chuck. Not Chuck.
Yeah. White people are eating up Kendrick Lamar right now. I know. I'm trying to figure out.
Don't worry, people. We're gonna get back on subject. This is just what we do. Okay. Yeah. We jump off of different clips.
It's still related though.
It's still related.
It's still power control dynamics. And what is it that like Kendrick made some decisions to use his platform to give a message, right?
Right.
That most people didn't understand. Those that did understand, yay for us, right?
Right.
But then we had to try to defend that, and try to help And even in that, which is kind of what brought up this subject to begin with, was the Kindle thing. Because the people who I thought would have understood it didn't understand it, but those people were Christians.
Yep. Ooh,
yeah.
Yes.
Those people were Christians. And I was like, man, I thought that was like, man, they're really down for the people and all that. But like, and then I was like, oh, Christian. I counted all of the ones who did not get it or thought it was boring or felt like it didn't make any sense or whatever the case may be, or felt like he had wasted his platform for that. And I'm like, y'all didn't see it. You couldn't see it. You couldn't see it. I can't believe you couldn't see it. You couldn't see it. Like, but then I realized they were Christians.
Yep.
They're Christians. You know, so again, it's a mindset. It's a full-fledged mindset. And I saw a clip yesterday, even with that same pastor that I showed earlier, where he had cropped a clip of this lady who was preaching to the congregation about Trump for the most part, and basically saying, well, you know, y'all know Silas in the Bible, right?
Yes.
So there was aligning him with Silas, right? And saying like, you know, well, God used Silas, even though Silas was against all the things and, you know, horrible person, but God used Silas. So they did this, God is going to use Trump thing or whatever, right? And stuff. So
okay, keep going.
And so, and this had to be before the election that this was happening, because basically by the end of the at some point in the sermon, because it was just a clip, she was talking about him in the realm of Silas and basically like promoting voting for him. And I was like, Christian, like Christian, conservative, like that's where the percentages of us that didn't vote in the right direction, that's where they came from. I promise you.
Yeah.
That's
it was that Christian group.
You know,
they all need to go watch Handmaid's Tale. Just watch it, and that's they trying to make Gilead. You know what I'm saying? So,
right.
And 100% those women who support it ain't got no goddamn rights. I mean, they snatching your rights up right now. So
absolutely.
Ooh, we boy, the blind boy. The blind, man.
Let me see if we had any other questions on here. That was good questions. Oh, what would your faith look like if no one told you who God was?
It'll look kind of like it look now. You know,
I just kind of be wide open.
Yeah.
After we just deconstructed what we did know, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah.
No, because like me and Fred was just talking about, like the idea that I don't get to have accolades for my own accomplishments is fucked up. That all praise and glory goes to God. You get all the credit for all the things, except when bad shit happens. Right.
You dust. You dirt.
Exactly. You know? Yet I have free will to do what I choose to do. But do I really have a choice if you are orchestrating all the moves and all that?
Yeah.
Right.
Because basically that's what they're saying. You know, like you do nothing. He do it all. Like I said, that's why I said. So
steps are
when
ordered.
when I make a terrible decision, that was his choice.
Exactly.
Going by what you said.
Right, because if he controlling everything, what's the point of prayer? Like why do we need to pray about anything if everything is already set in place to go this way? You know.
Right. And then and what's the purpose? Like, what is the point? What's the point?
Again,
If I'm not making my own choices, I'm not choosing for myself. Everything is already set up, like you know.
This is where God called them to be, you know. Like, and why was he praying every day? You know,
right?
Right. You wasn't praying for that,
right? How much of your faith was formed in fear?
Not formed in fear, but when I began to be like, nah, I can't keep doing this, there was a fear of stopping. You know, it goes back to what I was saying. Like when you go to cut it off, you do feel like, am I doing the right thing?
Am I doing the right thing? Yeah.
And the fear was that I was going to be horribly punished for even the thought of it. Lasted for about 20 minutes. I was good after that.
Right.
You know?
So what did it feel like when you made the better decision for yourself and you realized fire and brimstone didn't hit you in the head?
It felt pretty good.
It did.
For me, it was confirmation. It was like, okay, so I was right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was right.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to agree with Brian. Yeah, because when I thought about it, it was like, you know, am I really going to give this up? Where do I go from here? I have nothing to replace this.
Right.
You know, I have nothing. This going to be this giant hole. And then I was just like, okay, you know, we going to find out what's going to happen because I can't keep living like this.
Right.
And then, like you said, when I woke up the next day, and you know, Satan wasn't standing next to me with a pitchfork.
With a pitchfork. But you was gonna be safe because he never actually killed nobody. So yeah,
I was like, okay, it's okay for me to feel good when I make a decision for myself and it work out. I don't feel guilty because I didn't say, oh man, because if it wasn't for Jesus, I would have never, you know, I would have never thought of this.
By the grace of God, I made it through. You know, and it's not a thing about not believing.
No, it's not.
It's a thing about changing your mindset on how you believe.
How you believe,
know what I mean?
Right. So that comes to my next question. I'm gonna play this clip and then I'm gonna ask the question.
The faith of my ancestors includes faith in Jesus, and the faith of Jesus includes faith in the ancestors. So I'm not gonna pick one or the other because they both make up my spiritual makeup. They are both a part of who I am, and I'm gonna embrace that. I don't give a damn what people think. I do that out loud so that other people can see it and be like, okay, I'm gonna do that too, because that's already in me, but I didn't know if I had permission. Early on in my ministry, people around me thought I did stuff just to piss people off. I'm not that petty. I don't do stuff just to piss people off. I do stuff to liberate people, and liberation pisses people off. And for me, my connection to Jesus is not broken because
and that's
you honor Jesus while rejecting the system that distorted his message.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like people think because you're not that diehard Christian, you know, giving 50% of your freaking gross income to the church every month. You're not because you're not doing that we running around butt naked in the streets, having sex with angels, like we inside of a Gomorrah and shit. You know, it's not that. You living a regular life. You love people the way you should. You treat people good the way you should. It's just that I'm not bonded to a belief that literally every other sentence is contradicting the thing that came before it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not jambled up into all of those man rules that went into a spiritual book, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
No, because like when I ask, there's been days where, you know, I ask Jesus, you know, hey, show me something, tell me something.
Yeah.
There's days when I ask Percy, tell me something, show me something. Because this may have been a Percy situation. And it's not so much now. If he ever answer back, y'all got any questions y'all want me to ask him, let me know. But for the most part, it's like I just want to think, what would he do in this situation?
Right.
And it's not like I'm hating on Jesus. I'm not hating on Jesus.
Yeah,
you know?
Before I sit down to eat, I pray for everybody food. You know, I give thanks for everybody meal in here.
Right.
Yeah, you know, just in case they forget. Because I didn't raise like Jaden and Xavier. I didn't bring them up in church every Sunday and banging them over the head with scripture after scripture. You know what I'm saying? They have access and they can find out for themselves. They know how I believe. You know what I mean? But I'm not gonna be bound by nothing.
Right. I read a study that showed atheists had more morals than those that identified as Christian. I could believe that.
I don't know, because Congress full of atheists, man. Them motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Shit,
But
boy.
I
Make me
think
want to
that's
say what I do to them, but I can't say it. I've been bonded by the podcast.
You want to beat their ass.
I do want to
We
beat
don't
their
advocate
ass.
for that.
But I'm
Yeah,
not gonna say it.
Yeah, we can't say that though. We can't say that. Though.
I don't think it's with the Congress people. I don't think it's so much of morals. They just stupid. They need some, They need some DEI hires in Congress
for real, so they can get their shit together. They don't know what they're missing out on.
Yeah, but I mean, as a matter of fact, like they're voting in their own interest. That's
Right.
They're
Exactly.
looking out for themselves and all.
They're looking out for themselves.
You know, so
Everybody does that. At the end of the day, we all look out for our best interest.
And in alignment with that, so do you feel like there's been a change in because Christians tend to judge a lot, because if you're not following the guidelines and the rules,
right, you don't comment on my posts about Jesus at all.
Right. And so do you see, since you have made your transition and deconstruction and all that kind of stuff, did you before as a Christian do that judging thing at any point in your Christianity walk?
Nah. Yeah, that's not even in my personality.
No, it's not mine either. I always been like, I never considered myself in a position to judge people, because I done did a lot of jacked up shit.
Right.
So how the hell I'm gonna tell you doing jacked up shit when I done probably did the same jacked up I done probably did the same thing you did. And I'm just not a judgmental person. I just give advice. That's it.
I think that makes it easier for us to question it, because the actions of traditional Christians did not match what we did, like what was in our heart already, what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I would go to church on Sunday. I'd leave church, hit the block. I got a 40 in my hand. You know what I'm saying? Like my actions didn't change. My belief status was what it was. You know what I mean? It was what it was. But I don't think I ever stopped being me. Like, even, with the G Money Productions Ministries thing. Yeah. We be having meetings. I got a Miller Lite right there.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So I never was not myself, because I am who I am. You know what I mean? And that's the whole thing. That don't make me an atheist, and I'm not walking around butt naked with baby oil. So I'm still just a regular person doing regular shit.
Right. And I think that was part of the great thing about G Money Productions ministry, is that we was encouraging the kids to do the same. Right. Just don't be in here disrespectful. Right. But be who you are. Be yourself.
That was pretty much the whole point of it. That's kind of what gave birth to that mentality.
Because they deserve to be themselves. Okay. Have your thoughts or beliefs about death changed?
Yes.
I don't worry about it like I used to.
Okay.
When I was deep into Christianity, I used to worry about it a lot.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But then, like I said, once I went deep into it and started looking at that and looking at other religions and experiencing that, it just, for me, I can only speak for me.
Speak for yourself,
it was just like, you can't 100% guarantee a lot of stuff, but I can 100% guarantee that one day I ain't gonna be here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I can't run from it. Right. And the one thing I can say, every religion, it seems like when you die, it ain't horrific.
Right.
You're not gonna burst into flames before you die.
That is just a mist. He's missed now.
I don't know, dude. But I see people in the Marvel movies turn into dust and just, they look kind of cool.
Look cool. Right.
I'm okay with that, blowing it off into the wind.
Off into the wind.
Mm-hmm.
Would save y'all a lot of money on my funeral expenses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Which is another part of the game.
I think for me, I'm gonna be honest, I don't think I ever was convinced with the heaven hell piece.
Okay.
Ever. I really I would always say, like, I've only been alive my whole life. I got zero experience with being dead, so I don't know. And I would tell the kids that. They'd be like, well, where you go when you die? I'm like, I have no freaking idea.
Oh no.
I don't know.
Because
I've never been dead.
Right. Like I did not risen.
Right.
I've never
and
risen.
Everybody that died before me, they come back and tell me about it. So
right. So because I know with love family members and homies and things, people that I care about that the past, I keep them here. I keep them here, and I don't even imagine this heavenly place. You know what I mean? I don't think I ever did really. I don't think I ever bought into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I was bought in the beginning and all that, and as I was deconstructing again, when it started not making sense and all that, and like I said, and now I have the premise that we're spirits inside of bodies and all that, and when this body is no longer useful, we will leave the body and all that. And I don't necessarily, like you said, believe that it's a heaven hell thing or whatever, but we still exist, and so it helps. It helped me when my mama died, right? It helped to know.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, it helped me. Yeah, it helped me when your mama passed away. It helped me when Shirley passed away. I wasn't like all on my hands and knees, booing, I was gonna miss them. I knew that much.
Right.
Like, damn, they're not here no more.
Right.
I'm gonna miss them. But like Brian said, I didn't think about, oh my God, they're no longer here. I just immediately started thinking about all the stuff that we did, all the the bad times that wasn't even that bad when you think about it.
Right, when you really think about it.
Right.
But I'm gonna spend time in all those years you was alive. I ain't gonna spend all that time in the 10 minutes it took you to pass on. It's like some people just get stuck in that one part. Because I remember when I bought a little Honda Accord, and I bought the little car. I was all excited about it first time with a newer car. This was 1997. And I was on my way. I said, "Oh shoot, I gotta show Papa my car." Got halfway up Franklin Avenue and was like, "Oh yeah, Papa passed on."
Right.
So I don't. I'm not gonna really retain, because to me, all I know you're alive. I don't know you when you're dead. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna hold on to the life piece.
And that makes sense for me because again, I feel like they're still present, right?
Exactly.
And all that. I never felt my mama really leave. Like I did not feel absent from her and all that. I had to learn to be okay with her in spirit form, right? And be present and all, because I know when my mama is present, because mama, what you need? You need something, and sometimes it's heavier than others and all that. And same thing, and I think what also helped me in changing that mindset and understanding it from that standpoint was my mama and Mimi, right? And y'all know I took care of Mimi for them 2 years before she passed.
Right.
And y'all know I was in a group chat all the time, like, if there's anything you need to tell Mimi, tell her now. All the time, because I kept feeling like she was about to pass, but then she wouldn't. And I was like,
she always was a stubborn woman.
She's stubborn, bro. She's stubborn as hell.
But what I realized in that, and with my mother, is that the spirit chooses, right?
Yep.
Mimi chose to stay as long as we were there, come and see her every week. And she would say, like, I'm so excited. I'm happy that y'all here. And we was having all these great grandmother, granddaughter moments and all that kind of stuff, right? And all that. When I moved to Minnesota, though, soon after, I moved in September. She was going in December.
Yep.
Right? Because she made the choice. She made a choice. I don't want to be here no more. Right? When my mama started calling people, like my mama decided when she got that diagnosis that she didn't want to be here, because she said, I'm not going to take the treatment because, and my brother and my sister both was like, no, you're going to take that treatment. you know,
Right,
and so
right,
she
right.
did it to appease us, right,
Mm-hmm.
and all that. But I knew she was done because she was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be a burden. I am tired, you know.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
tired of fighting and all that. And I started thinking about all the stuff she had been through in her lifespan that I knew about. Not even the stuff I don't know about, just the
Right.
stuff I knew about. And I was like, this little lady tired, right? And
Yeah.
stuff. And so, so releasing her was not hard for me because I saw it as she's not suffering in that body no more.
Yeah.
Right? She's free. She's free from all this stuff, right? And all that. So that helped me to see things in a different perspective and all that. That they do still live with me and in me, right? I pass by a mirror often when I see them in my face. I pass by a mirror and I see my mom, or I see Mimi, you know. And the first time it happened, especially with Mimi, I was just like,
yeah,
you know,
you kind of been looking like Mimi though.
Yeah,
What
you thought we were joking when we used to tell you that? No, we was telling you that because we did.
I was like, for real, and all
Yeah,
that. But then I
you
started
all right.
seeing those reflections of my mom or seeing reflections of her, and and now I just be like, hey Mimi, I see you, you know,
right?
And then them showing themselves to me or whatever. Like you say when you ask Percy, like, give me a sign, help me out with this, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna continue to talk to and receive from my ancestors and all of those before me, right? And all that. My daughter right now feels so connected to Auntie Gloria, and she ain't never met her.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So much so she's like, find me a picture. I need a picture of her in my room, right?
Yep.
And when
That's
I go and see a picture, like I can feel her presence, right? And so like this is just a body. This is just a body because they're still present with us. And so I think it's important for us to, and for everybody, of course, to figure out what works for you, right? It should not be caught up in bondage. It should not be caught up in rules and doctrine. Like the spirit should be free. It should be free, right? And of course, consequences come with decisions. Period.
100%.
Right?
Yeah, you spend all your money on OnlyFans, you're gonna be broke.
Exactly. You know right? You know, and all that. So
every decision has a consequence, good or bad. I tell all my children that growing up. Think about what you're gonna do, because good or bad, it's gonna come with a consequence.
It's yours, right? And consequences, like you said, are not just bad; they're good as well. And I deserve to be able to say, okay, I graduated from college. Oh, I got my master's degree. Oh, you know, I started my business. You know, like we proud of ourselves. We doing our podcast. You know what I'm saying? Like, like you know,
this girl, yeah.
I
told my daddy if I'm supposed to be in love, send me someone, or else I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. He definitely sent me my husband. You're damn right. He said to your husband, he don't want you out there just doing what you're doing.
And let me tell you, he sent to her husband, but you could have never told me Rochelle was gonna get married. You could have never, ever told me that. So that was definitely a gift. That was definitely a gift.
Hey, man.
So, I got one last thing that wraps the same stuff up we just talked about.
It doesn't matter to me how well you argue a harmful point, because the harm is the issue. So you can give me every Bible verse under the sun. If at the end of the day, that results in people needing therapy because it done messed them up in their head, if that results in people questioning whether or not they should exist, if that results in people having anxiety and depression, I reject it. So you can quote all the scriptures you want to quote. I don't give a I know them too. But at the end of the day, how was that affecting the people? So everything that I say in a theological debate goes back to our care for people.
If it's harmful, it's a problem.
There you go. Don't do it.
It's as simple as that. And we also need to be able to recognize when we are being harmed.
Yeah. That's why I think your profession, Chanel, and the church, that's why I see a big clash all the time. Because your profession kind of goes totally against what they talk about in religion.
Yeah. Because it keeps the people suffering.
Yeah.
Right. It
You
makes
know.
them a dependent, 100%
Makes them
dependent.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
when people are, and then what they start doing is, I don't understand why this is happening to me, because you made these particular choices, right? And all that. Because if you have the idea of the deity, then why would God put me through this? I just don't understand why. And so they don't take up arms and do what's necessary to change the situation. They just think this is what it is. I just don't understand why it's me. And I'm like, and why not you? So like, here's some decisions you made that were yours that had these particular consequences. Let's change this pattern. Let's change how you think. Let's change what you're doing, right? And it's hard for people to take that onus. It's very hard for people to take that onus, which is why I come with the no bullshit.
Yeah. But kind of like Brian said, though, especially with religion, it's hard for people to get out of that. That's
hard for them to cut off.
It's burned into them for generations.
Right. Yeah.
It's not just something they learned yesterday that they saw on TikTok and now they doing it. It's like generation. It's been handed down from generation to generation.
Right. And it's taught to them their salvation. You know what I mean? Their eternity lies in you know what I mean? Right. So man, y'all gotta wake up. You know what I mean? And not even wake up, just ask some questions, man.
Just ask questions.
Don't blindly follow nobody, and don't send the last of your money to nobody whose house is bigger than yours, cars more expensive than yours, suits better than yours. That don't make sense at all.
Right.
Tell them to lean on faith, long suffering. You know what I'm saying? God will make a way for them too. Because if God done bless you with your rent money, pay your damn
rent.
Pay your rent. Exactly.
Because you can't live at the church.
You can't live at the
church. They ain't gonna let you.
They show not.
For real.
Treat you like a vagrant. Deport your ass to the streets.
So we encourage everybody to liberate yourselves. You know, question everything. Get the truth. Get the truth. Find out the truth. And I know it's hard to find out the truth, to figure out the truth, but we are in the information age.
So it's everywhere.
Start investigating. Figure it out.
And it's okay. It's 100% okay to question your beliefs and still believe. It's okay. You can do that.
Right.
You can question your belief and still believe. If you can question your job and still show up to work every day,
come on now. Come on, Fred.
Exactly.
Fred got bars.
Bars.
That's real talk. So we're gonna wrap this conversation up. We encourage everybody to leave your comments, like, share, subscribe. We encourage you to let us know what you think, for real. Like, even if it's controversial, even if you don't believe what we're saying,
whether you agree or disagree, we do want to hear from you.
Let's have some conversation about it and all that, because we love to converse.
Right. It's a conversation, folks. It's a conversation about the truth.
It's the truth.
Always the truth.
Always the truth. Yeah.
Now I will say this. Don't come in the comments with that craziness. It's okay.
Well, I mean,
we're looking for intellectual conversation.
Yeah. So like, if whatever it is that you feel, you believe, whatever it is, like, come with your evidence. Come with it. Like, let's have a conversation about it. Not just like we have no intentions on tearing anybody down and what they believe. No. Nothing like that.
Right.
We will never disrespect your beliefs.
Right.
Never.
Right.
Never.
Right. We just saying explore, open your mind, and all that. So, like, share, subscribe, people, subscribe,
and follow on Facebook.
And follow, like, come on, man.
Click on the damn button, you lazy bastards.
It don't cost you nothing.
If you can like that Puffy video, you can like our video. Because I guarantee you, all of y'all liked that video when they said Puffy was running around with the baby on. Like,
that's true.
Subscribe, follow. Appreciate y'all.
And we
love everybody.
Y'all. Let's give a shout out to the people that was in the comment section. Rochelle,
of course.
Asha, Al.
Al dropping knowledge.
You know, Al. Yeah, yeah.
Al dropping some knowledge.
And let me give I'm gonna give a shout out to Al. Al is a wonderful, awesome black male therapist. So if you are looking for a therapist and you need a black male therapist, holla, let me know. I'm gonna refer you to Al. He's the bomb.com. Yes.
And Devontae.
And Devontae. We appreciate all of y'all in the comments section.
Mr. I like showing my muscles on Facebook. He always taking pictures in the mirror like this.
Yeah.
That's the work that he put in. He
right. Like, he did that on his own.
He did that on his own.
He did that. So I want y'all to remember that we are conscious, we are aware, we stay prepared, and we ain't never scared.
Never scared.
I know.
Y'all remember
y'all
that.
Have a good evening, and y'all choose to have a no bullshit week. See y'all next week. Oh, next week will be just the men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be me, Big Fred, and a couple of guests.
Couple of guys, and y'all, they're gonna talk about men and self-care. You know what I'm saying? So this is about men's mental health, and like, you know, I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
they doing
take
the thing.
care of yourself, brother. You know
what I'm saying? So be there, be square. Okay.
Peace out.
Peace out, people.